Does anybody else in Canada feel like things are rigged? Like things are rigged against us? And this could be things being rigged against men. It could be rigged against anybody under 40. But I was thinking to myself recently, we could talk about the stock market to start. Things, it seems, in the West in general, specifically here in Canada, are on the heavy decline. The economy is not doing well. I was at my Muay Thai studio about 2 weeks ago. I just got my boot off, by the way, from my fractured ligament in my foot. Thanks for the well wishes, people. But when I was chatting to some of the guys at the dojo, I just asked, because everybody else works very different jobs and very different things than what I do. And I just said, does anybody know of anybody doing well? Is anybody personally doing well? And the overwhelming response was no. Everybody's getting by. Everybody knows nothing but people that are not succeeding right now, and everybody are struggling. And I mentioned this in a recent video that the biggest plumbing company in Vancouver Island, they had a fleet of 40, 45 different vans. They just closed up shop and filed bankruptcy and said, all right, we're done. It's over. All right, roofing companies, any type of like renovation companies, they're all struggling because nobody has any additional income or any any extra disposable income to put aside to these projects, right? So they're not doing very well. And then they're not spending much money. And then everybody else is pulling, like everything is just contracting and shrinking. And it seems things are rigged against us, even though it's interesting. You see the clips in the House of Commons and, you know, the Prime Minister says, we've never had it so good. Things have never been so affordable. Does anybody else find it interesting? Every politician, since pretty much the day that I was born, in 30 years in this country, I've heard politicians time and time again say, we're going to make housing more affordable. That's our big goal. And then they go out and try to make housing affordable, and they make it more unaffordable. Like you would generally have to try to fail this hard, right? And then you look at, you know, my parents or your parents, depending on how old you are. They bought a house in 1975, 1980 for 7 raspberries. Now it's worth 700,000 or 7 million, right? Depending on location, because location is everything. So like that's rigged against us because while the boomer class are sitting in their homes that they bought for cheap and are now appreciated and giving them paper wealth, shall we say, my generation, myself included, it's very difficult to afford a home here in, let's say, in Vancouver, right? You can't touch a shoebox for under 500,000. And while, yes, could I touch a shoebox? Probably with some good financing and whatnot. I don't want to raise a family in a shoebox, right? For me to get what I want to, you know, have kids, have a family, you need, you know, a little backyard, some space. I do think kids are dramatically cheaper than what society leaves you to believe because you got to get the iPad. You don't need to know any of that BS. You know, you just need a backyard, some sunlight, get them a couple toys, throw the ball around the backyard, an entertaining dad who's tall, handsome, humble, and sexy. That's a big key, as you can tell. And that'll do the job for you. That's also rigged against us. We could also use Uncle Donnie, and that's President Trump down in the States, as well as our fearless Prime Minister, Mr. Mark Carney. We have who's supposed to be the greatest negotiator of all time, getting a deal done with the U.S. president, and I don't think this guy could negotiate a pine cone off a pine tree, nor has he even come close in the past year and a bit. And every step of the way, things are getting more expensive as the tariffs come in. And I've said it before, I think the tariffs are just a giant policy by the elites to cripple small to medium businesses, because who do the tariffs hurt, right? The tariffs hurt the small guy because their costs are the highest, right? When I go to Walmart and I buy a packet of ground beef, I don't just use this as an example because I bought some ground beef this morning, beef and rice, high protein, low cost on the good meals. But anyway, you buy the beef at Walmart, you're going to pay, I mean, I guess depending on how much you're getting, but let's say you pay $6, 7 Canadian snow pesos for a packet. You go to the local butcher, you're going to pay 10 to 12, right? The tariffs are hitting all the costs along the way. You could use the fuel as the example, right? The carbon taxes, the crazy inflation from Uncle Donnie's war that is hitting fuel prices, which the producers are not going to eat those costs. They're putting it on to me and you, right? As well as the actual input, right? Like the styrofoam packaging, right? There's a cost to that. The plastic that goes into it, all the different pieces along the way. The machinery that goes into actually turning from a cow to here's your package of ground beef. There's tariffs all the way along the way. I do think it's just disguised as American nationalism and Canadian nationalism, which I think there is some truth behind American nationalism, not as much as Canadian nationalism, but it's just a way to rally people behind a narrative that is really just going to bankrupt and cripple small to medium businesses so that you have less power because you can't fight the government if you need to eat, and then you have to answer to the monopolies who are going to give you things, right, and sell you stuff, right? The Amazons, the Walmarts, etc., who don't care about you and just cycle money transnationally, as opposed to my local butcher. He's going to spend it locally, right? I give him my money locally. I get to meet him, shake his hand, right, have a conversation, feel him out type of deal. And then that goes around the local economy as opposed to Walmart. Let's be honest, they're not putting money back in the local economy. Not a chance. They pretend they are, but they're not. And the next thing would be, excuse me, the Canadian dollar, or the Canadian monopoly money, the snow peso, which just seems trending towards. I'm curious what's going to happen, because if I'm making a prediction, with the housing market going up in the near future, I do believe they're going to find some way to print money. They're going to do something, because the home prices have to continue to go up somehow to collect the boomer votes. Because if the housing market crashes, which to be honest we're due for a crash, because we haven't had a bubble pop in about, I think it was the late 80s was the last housing bubble pop. We're due. But if that pops, the boomers ain't going to vote liberal or socialist anymore. They're going to be a lot more open-minded to a change. And the powers that be want to keep the power the way that it is. They're not here to serve you and I. They're here to keep power the way that it is, unfortunately, because the system is corrupt. So they're going to have to find some way to prop the housing prices up to continue the paper wealth of the boomers. Okay, so that's going to continue on. So you and I can't afford homes for families. The cost of living crisis, which they somehow can't figure out how to solve. It's very simple. Very, very simple. Resources. We have all the gold. We are the richest country in the world ever to exist with all the resources that we have, but we are a country run by buffoons. And if we were to dig up the resources and generate productivity, like let's use the pipeline as an example. And while, yes, a pipeline I suppose is better than no pipeline, I guess no deal is also better than a bad deal, where Mark Carney and the boys, and I'm just following the dots. I'm connecting some dots here and trying to see where the money leads. Okay, we got to get a pipeline done to satisfy Western Canadians from their alienation stuff, right? They don't really care, but they just need to get you to shut up for another election cycle. So we got to build a pipeline. Well, BC doesn't want to build a pipeline because this entire province is socialist, so what do we got to do? Well, if Mr. Eby, our premier here, wants a pipe, or doesn't want a pipeline, if we bail out all the condo developers that are going under and really going to crush the economy and the housing prices, and Mr. Eby will lose votes for the boomer class that want to keep their home prices high. If we bail them out, he'll co-sign the pipeline, pretend to just get out of the way, and then we can build that. Now, nationalizing the resources, I think, is a terrible idea compared to just privatizing it, because as we all know, the government doesn't have any incentive to make money. The private sector does. Right? So, for example, Air Canada, WestJet, Via Rail, Amtrak, Delta Airlines. Actually, excuse me, I don't know if the U.S. airlines are as nationalized as here in Canada, but the Air Canada, the WestJet, the Via Rail, all the transportation companies in Canada, they're all government-run, government-operated. There's zero incentive for them to be profitable, right? If they're not, the government will bail them out, right? If they were privatized, they would have full incentive to maximize productivity, maximize the profitability of the day-to-day operations, and not a penny wasted. Every ounce counts. But when the government takes over, that kind of goes out the window. So I don't see the pipeline, with it being nationalized, being optimistic, and especially when every single tribe, every single native band put their hand up and say, hey, a little cash over here, please. We've gone down the reconciliation rabbit hole over here before people. Card carrying member of the community. It is just a way to collect taxes. That's all it is. That's all it is. We don't promote based on merit. We promote based off, well, leave that for a different video. We'll keep going down the dollar rabbit hole and things being rigged. I mean, you could even go down that rabbit hole as well, right? Card carrying member of the native community. I went to school for free. Matter of fact, I got paid to go to school. And if you're an average white, I would honestly say the indigenous population that truly colonized and settled Canada, well, you got to pay full tuition. Right? You don't get the same perks that I got. And I'll tell you, it's wrong. I benefit from it, but it's wrong. Everybody should be equal in the eyes of the law, which we could also go down that, right? If I say someone the government doesn't like, there's a good chance they will show up outside of my door and say, hello, sir. We'd like to talk to you. We have some questions about what you've been posting online, right? Just like in the UK, 12,000 arrests for mean tweets and posts the government doesn't like. If, I've got to be very careful with my wording here, if the fruit, grape, those gangs in the UK, if you know what I'm saying, I'm trying to be careful for YouTube's sake, if they do that, that's acceptable. If you talk about that on social media, you're going to jail. That's how ass backwards and corrupt everything is. Right? When speaking out against the government, which are supposed to be acting in the best interest of the citizens, is a bigger crime than what you are criticizing, it may as well be over. And I do think the political system is cooked in Canada. I really don't think there's a political solution. I don't think voting PRN is going to be the solution. I don't think Daniel Smith is going to be the solution. I like to believe Maxime Bernier is the solution because they've tried so hard to ban him from all the debates and silence him and put him in jail. That to me says that he's telling the truth, and what the powers that be don't want you and I to hear. I think there's a lot of truth in that statement. But the general population is not prepared for the real solutions, right? Like the ship, I've used the analogy, the ship is sinking. Well, the Titanic is at the bottom of the ocean. We're in the waters hoping for a lifeboat at this point, right? I don't think that getting a bucket and shoveling water off the ship is going to help. It might make you feel good. I don't think it's going to help. There's so many things that need to be fixed, right? And I've taken some heat, some people here, locally here in Vancouver, that I don't think these words really have any meaning anymore, that a lot of the things I talk about in these videos are racist or homophobic or insert any of the isms or obics out there. But the reality is everything that is being popularized, trendy, shall we say, and encouraged by society is an attempt to lower the birth rates, replace you, bring in cheap labor, water down your power if there is ever an election that has any matter. I do believe there are selections, not elections, and to maintain power in the hands that be that have it and that hold it. And they want you to be the shit muncher that just goes along and does what you're told and doesn't question anything. And when, at least for me anyway, sometimes I look around and I listen to some of the slop that people love to eat up, like the social media slop, like people just love eating this stuff up. And I look around and I ask myself the question, am I on crazy pills? Am I insane? But every single opinion and every single viewpoint that I have about the world and everything is backed up by what I believe is logic and reason. Right? I've explained it over the course of many, many videos. Right? The bringing in the third world to bring in pretty much legal slave labor, because the monetary system has expanded so much where the corporations can't stay afloat if they pay you and I regular wages. And while you complain you want your wages higher, they don't. So they'll pretend to pay you the wages and just bring in the third world under a temporary foreign program, which was lobbied through the government, where you, through taxation, will pay half the wages, and then the corporation will pay the other half and get legal slave labor. I don't think it's racist. It's just an objective truth. Look around. Go to any of the corporations. You can see it, right? Another thing I'm taking a lot of heat for as well is the alphabet soup stuff, the alphabet soup agenda. I want to be careful again with my wording, but if you're a part of that crew, you literally cannot have your own children. You cannot reproduce. It's literally biologically impossible. I don't care what logic and reason you throw my way, it is impossible. And by doing that, you lower the birth rates because you're not going to reproduce. And the birth rates have just continued to plummet. And as the birth rates plummet, the immigration ramps up and just the cycle accelerates on overdrive, right? Do whatever you want in your free time. Personally, I don't care what you do in your free time. I'm just pointing out in this channel some objective truths of what I'm observing, the problems of the country. Talk about it, bring some things to light, hopefully wake some people up. Because I think at this point, the country is most people are just so mesmerized with the day-to-day slop that the mainstream media puts out, that the politicians put out, that nobody can kind of zoom out a little bit and look at what's actually going on in the country. And the country that I love, that I want to raise kids and have a family with and have a future in, that I don't see happening anytime soon. I see some very dark times the next 5 to 10 years. We even use gold and Bitcoin. My gold has had a nice little haircut the last little bit. Bitcoin's fallen off a cliff. The economy is in the shits, but the stock market's at all-time highs. How does that make sense? Right? The politicians like to use the stock market as things are doing well. Look at how high the stocks are. Well, it's not really a how is everything doing. It's how are the elites doing type of deal, right? When a block of butter is $10, I don't know how the stock market shows that, but that's not good, right? And with how bad things are going, gold should be going to the moon, not taking a 20% haircut this calendar year. I think that's rigged. Bitcoin, you kind of go both ways. A little bit of the conspiracy theories. I get that it is a midterm election year, and historically the midterm election year is when Bitcoin does fall off a cliff. But when things have been going so poorly, and a 40% haircut, I have to ask the question, are they driving down the prices of these assets to flush people out of leverage, to bankrupt you, so that you need the government to eat? And then the government will come in and take over all the assets, well, a good chunk of them, through insider trading, whether it's, Mark Carney and the boys or Uncle Donnie, and then shoot them to the moon, right? Gold revaluation, there's an option as well. Bitcoin, using that as a reserve currency. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but The idea of driving the prices down, cutting it down by 40%, the government taking over, and then using that as a reserve asset of some kind, that does make kind of sense. Right? I'm at the point too, like where these ideas of corruption come to mind, and I ask myself the question: would they do this? Oh yeah, they would. Oh yes, they would. The politicians hate you and I. They hate the fact that I'm even questioning this and talking about it, and I just don't shut up and go along with it, and go along with paying, 40, 45, 50% of all my money towards taxes so they can paint rainbows on the sidewalk and then send the rest over, for some proxy war over in the Ukraine and blowing up kids. Crazy stuff. Or the alphabet soup for Palestine. You ever seen the meme of Palestine for alphabet soup? It's crazy wild stuff. It just makes you question the direction of the world. But it definitely feels like the country is rigged. And the Canadian dollar, oh boy, the monopoly money dollar that we have, I don't know where that's going to go in the next 5 to 10 years, but I'm making a prediction with how bad the economy is going to get, and the interest rates are going to have to go up to kill some, or curb at least some of the inflation from Uncle Donnie's war and whatnot. And with us being a welfare state country, we are going to turn the money printer on for those welfare programs because we're in big deficits. That's all we've done in the past, I think 10, 15 years, give or take. Even the last couple of years of Harper, he was running a little bit of a deficit. So how do you fund it? You got to turn the money printer on. Inflation's going to run high, going to run hot, right? Government's going to take care of you. The censorship bills that they're putting in place to censor the internet, they'll have the same ones the UK have here. It's just a matter of time. Curious when. Very curious when that's going to happen. Not sure when, but it's very likely. Actually, more than likely, I think. And I could see the dollar genuinely 60 to 65 cents on the US dollar. I think it cracked 68.5, 69, I think about a year and change ago. For some reason, they've liked keeping it around 75 to 80 cents on the dollar the last 10 years or so. But I could see a 65 to 60 cents Canadian dollar on the US dollar. And the entire country is going to be on sale for foreign investors. So if there is a massive bubble pop in the housing market, etc., stocks, well, the boomers will get flushed out. Corporations and big investors will come in and take it, and the boomers got nothing, and then my generation has nothing, and the you will own nothing and be happy starts to make a lot of sense, right? I remember hearing that for the first time, 2019, 2020, you will own nothing and be happy by 2030, and I thought, rubbish. No way that would happen. The world isn't that evil. Well, fast forward here 6 years, I can more than see that happening. In fact, I could see that happening before 2030. You will truly own nothing and be happy. I wonder what 27 is going to look like, right? 2027. Will the economy collapse? Will the AI bubble burst? Will gold prices go to the moon, or will they drop them all the way down? Same with Bitcoin. Will you need the government to eat? Will the surveillance state be here? Will the online censorship be in full force? I don't know, right? I have many, many questions. I'm very curious how things are going to look, but all I know, it's not good. It's not good. What do you think? Comment section below, people. What did I miss? What did I hit the nail on the head? Become a channel member as well. 99 cents, support the content creation like this. I don't hear anybody else talk about this type of stuff, so please, in the comment section, let me know what did I hit, what did I miss, etc., etc. And also, for channel members, you get access to all my videos early, and your suggestions have a significantly better chance of becoming real videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.